All right, Chiefs Kingdom. It looks like we're online. Looks like there's some of you here. Appreciate that already. Hopefully, the lighting is better this time. I'm going to do my best. Still trying to work through this new setup, but hey, big night for the Chiefs. Gigantic. Another prime time game that they made their mark, and I think that's something that they can really hang their hat on at this point. You know, there's so many things to go over about what happened tonight. But I want to start at the top. And thank you all for being in here. Looks like there's a great crowd already. Remember, if you're watching this live, not on the replay, but if you're in the room now, hit a question mark at the beginning of your question. It helps me pick out of the chat what the questions are. And if you're watching on replay, just leave your normal comment and I'll try to get to them later. So big game, big night for Pat Mahomes. Bigger night for the defense. We're going to talk all about that. I'm going to start off with some general things. Tough to see Terrence Smith go down, and never want anybody to get hurt ever. You know, and I had a couple of conversations on Twitter. You know, I wanted to see Dorian O'Daniel too. We'll talk about him in a second, but you know, this is what you always work against. You don't want to have injuries, don't want to see guys go down, but you have to have the next guy step up. And I see that there's questions in here already. I'm going to try to keep a handle on those. How much better does it get with Houston, Barry, and Sorensen? Well, it gets better. You saw just how good they can be against a team that clearly wasn't ready for Arrowhead, but was kind of in the doldrums too. They had a lot to play for tonight, the Bengals did, and they weren't able to get it done. So you add that on top, and you get Barry and Houston back. Sorensen, I don't know. It's good to have Sorensen back if he does make it back. Looks like he's going to start practicing fairly soon. But the topic of the day, and I see from all of your comments, you all want to talk about it too. So we'll get right to it. Dorian O'Daniel. You know, I honestly thought he was going to play more that nickel safety role. And you did see him line up on some wide receivers tonight. Boyd in particular, who was a guy that I was pretty wary of. If you saw the pregame film, the video that I did, he got on some linebackers and made them look silly last week against the Steelers, and he's done it most of the season. So he was somebody I was scared of, but O'Daniel was right on him. And I think when they have that kind of faith in a guy after Terrence Smith goes down, you got to roll with it. Andy Humberg, I see you. How you doing, pal? A lot of old friends are coming in here recently. I like it. Everybody give Andy a thumbs up, will you? Because he's a funny dude. So despite getting somebody hurt like that, I thought O'Daniel came in. He did what we wanted him to do, right? He was good in coverage. Like I said, he covered Boyd on a couple of snaps that I saw. I thought that was very significant. To have a linebacker be able to walk out on a wide receiver, not just on tight ends, that's really huge. And this is something that clearly they've been kind of progressing him a little bit along. What's up, Red Rocker? And as he gets there, the Smith injury gave them the excuse to put him in and to let him roll at this point, no matter how prepared they think they are. You know, when you have kids, they tell you, hey, you're never really ready. Well, obviously they felt like O'Daniel was never really ready, but he was ready enough when there was a reason, and there was a reason in Terrence Smith. And so that's what they did. I thought he played fairly well. I commented on Twitter at one point, go back and check that if you want, that the big play that he made, there was a tackle for loss where it was just purely instinct. He read it, he saw it, his assignment was out on a swing, and he chased him down, beat the linemen to their blocks, and that's how he got that play made. And that's beautiful to see. That's something that they've been sorely missing. And he's a guy that I think is better in coverage than Terrence Smith is. He's played a safety role. He's played corner in college. I don't want to see him do any of that, but clearly they're not scared of him going up against some of the bigger I don't want to say possession types because I think Boyd's more than that, but possession type receivers to do what he can do and to stay in that coverage and keep them protected. And I thought he was not the only linebacker that played well tonight, but in that particular role, the thing that they've been missing in that nickel D, he stepped up and provided. It makes you wonder why they waited so long, but we're not going to dwell on that because it's really not very productive, to tell you the truth. If you're new here, thanks for checking us out. We got a lot more people than we usually do, up to 300 already. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. If you want to ask a question, put the question mark at the beginning of the sentence. It really helps me out. So not only is 44 a stud, you're very right, Pratt. He's going to play a significant role because they want to play so much dime and nickel on this team that he's going to have that role. You've seen how much Terrence Smith has played to this point, and that's because they don't want Reggie Ragland out there on obvious passing downs when they can get away with replacing him. So that's what they're going to do at this point. Hopefully Smith is not terribly hurt. Depth is important. And I don't think they trust Neiman to go out there and passing downs either. So as much as I want O'Daniel to play, we don't want a reason for him to have to. If they feel they need to switch him out or they need to give him a break every now and then and let Smith play again, that's a good thing. That will help them. A lot of questions about the linebackers. We're going to get to all of them. Bear with me. You guys are asking great questions. We're going to go to it right now. Good things on O'Daniel. I know you guys are happy about that. So am I. The other linebackers played well too. Reggie Ragland and Anthony Hitchens obviously are fed up with getting their butts kicked because they came out and played a much, not a lot, like significantly better game tonight. Instinctively, less hesitation. When Chris Collinsworth is talking about it on the broadcast, it's pretty plain to see that they have changed, at least for one game, what they are doing. More aggressive, better downhill. Reggie still got hung up more than he should. Reggie's a powerful guy. Ragland should be able to shed blocks better than he is, but I didn't see as much hesitation out of him. Every now and then, maybe a couple plays, but the hesitation I thought was well diminished. Now I think he's just got to deliver those blows and get out of the way. Good shape to be in. You have now basically a run package that can stop the run. You saw the D-line continue to play well. Not that he didn't have a splash play, but he was consistent. I thought Alan Bailey played great. I thought Chris Jones had a good night. Just from being sound and fundamental and doing what they need to do. That's what I'm talking about. Not the big sacks and everything, although I think Jones did get credited for at least a half sack there, and I haven't seen the official numbers yet. But overall, the front played like the front has to do, and that allows the secondary to be protected and to do what they need to do. And before I get to that, I want to make sure I hit your questions. Breland Speaks grade, solid. Just from seeing the broadcast and not seeing the L22, I'm going to give him a C+ or a B-, like solid. I didn't see him get beat up and make any huge mistakes. I didn't see him make any much splashes. I did see him push the pocket a lot. I saw him had tackles back into Andy Dalton's face and getting in his mug, and that helps. And like we talked in the game plan video the other day, getting Andy off of his spot helps. And when you look at the stats, sorry, I got to look over here for a second. Dalton ended up less than 200 yards passing to 350 something for Mahomes. Just ridiculously different. Dalton 148. That's significant, and that's because the pocket just moved in on him continually. They didn't quite get there, although D Ford, I thought his motivation this season is great. That's really going to get him all the way home, and I think that's really what they need to see. I'm surprised they didn't see Tano, but I think they gave Tano Passanio the night off basically because they didn't feel they had to have him. They were getting enough push and enough play out of Speaks and Ford. I didn't see a reason that they had to put him in there. I think they kind of took it easy on him just to protect his ankle, and that's fair. I saw Zombo out there a little bit and clean up, and that's okay too. O'Daniel, I don't want to answer too many things. Scheming by Sutton, he still leaves the safeties out to dry a little bit. I don't like him putting Lucas on that tight end for that touchdown. Ron Parker's a bigger, stronger, heavier guy that I think could play that kind of post-up game better. You should have had them switch off. That should have been a known assignment going in as far as I'm concerned, but I'm not running this defense. I will give Bob credit. He stacked guys a couple of times. Was it Ford sack? There was a play with Speaks and Ford on the same side, and they gave the tackle fits, and that helped him get home. And that's Bob doing some of the things that Bob does well. They started out the game a little more aggressive, and then they backed off. And I think that variation, I'd rather see him press pretty much all day, every day. AJ Green still had over 100. I think he had 117 yards, so a significant day from him. But Skandrick played well early. The guy holds a lot. He's a veteran. I told you the day that he signed, that's what he brings, that savvy. He's going to hold a little bit, but he knows how to get away with it. He knows how to make it not obvious. And so as far as hand fighting and that kind of thing, he's not really augmenting or shifting the route, but he's making sure that he's with the guy. And I thought you saw Orlando Skandrick do what he can do He might have a little bit more room to get better, but I mean, this is what he brings. And I thought that was significant. That's going to give them a chance to be okay. A lot of O'Daniel questions. Talked a lot about him in the very beginning. So when this posts back up to YouTube, go back and check that out, and we'll talk all about O'Daniel. Don't want to miss anybody's questions. So make sure you're hitting those question marks at the beginning of the question itself. Do we trust Bob? Bob had a better plan. And I don't know whether it's he turned the dogs loose and that's why the linebackers were more aggressive. That's why the DBs were more aggressive. Could be. And if so, credit to Bob. I mean, if you correct what you're doing wrong, I'm going to give you credit, even though I still think he's overmatched as the DC. I still want to see him replaced eventually. But that's what you have to do. You have to adapt. And if he did that, then more power to him. Now, if it's just the players getting motivated at getting embarrassed week after week after week, and they stepped up, well, then kudos to them. However it worked out, it accomplished the goal. And that's got to be a conglomeration of the players and the calls and the coaches getting it all together on one page. And I thought what you saw was the beginnings of a defense that has a chance to get better by being aggressive. And I've talked about this for the last couple of weeks. Aggression is the number one thing for these guys. They're athletic enough. The Chiefs leadership goes out and gets players that are athletic for this reason. Making them aggressive and turning them loose, that's what they need to do. And if it helps them play better, it helps them accomplish their goal. And if they can get to the point where they can do that week in and week out, this is going to be a better, a not bottom 20 defense. And that is a ticket to a Super Bowl with this offense like we saw tonight. Ridiculously good. We'll talk about Kareem Hunt in a couple of minutes. I just want to cover these kind of in order, just so I don't miss anybody. And if you already asked a question and I missed it, hit me with a couple exclamation points and I'll try to get back to it. I want to see the defense do this continually. I'm a defense first guy. I'd rather win a game 10-9 than put up all these numbers. So you still got to prove to me that this defense can be good week in, week out. Doesn't have to be great, just has to be good. Be a top 16. If you can get in the top 10, then be great. But be above 20 in this league, and you're going to be all right. Terry, I appreciate that. The videos are fun to make, and I'm working on getting better at it. I have some things coming, but I appreciate you guys hanging out. What's up, Ghost? The Rams are the current challenge. The Rams are the challenge. They're everybody's challenge. And this is going to be a really exceptional game, not just from the defensive point of view, but because this offense is going to be another Patriots game where they have to put out too. We're going to see that quite continually. The next move. If Ford Red Rocker, you have a good question. Is this the new Ford, or will he go back to the old Ford after he gets paid? He'll go back to the old Ford after he gets paid. Flat out, that's what I'm thinking. There's rumors that they might try to franchise Ford after this season to try to keep him motivated, but you're talking about 16.7, I think, is the cap number for the outside linebackers next year for the franchise tag. That's double what he's making now. And even at the franchise tag, I don't know that he's worth that. So it'll be an interesting thing. They have to see how Breland Speaks come along. That's why they're pushing him so much, to see if he can take over. Right now, he can't, because D is one of the top 5 pass rushers in the league. Right now, I want to see his total pressures after tonight, and I'll get you guys that out later in the week. If not on the film room video, it'll definitely be in the podcast. So make sure you check that. And if you're new here, the Locked On Chiefs podcast is also something that you want to check out, because I talk every day, 5 days a week about the Chiefs. Bob did let the ball hawk and go. Ron Parker made a nice big play. And it's funny because Ron Parker did to the Bengals what Dante Hightower did to Pat Mahomes last week. He was just kind of hiding. They call it a lurk. They call it a robber a lot. Robber's one of my favorite defenses because it lets the safety be instinctual in the middle there. That's what Eric Berry's best at, is when he's in a robber role. Seth likes to call it a spur. It's all the same thing. It's not having a dedicated assignment in coverage because there's zone behind you or enough responsibility behind you that you can just play the quarterback. And it makes it more of a chess match between that player and the quarterback. And what you saw Ron Parker do was just make a read. The quarterback didn't see him, probably because he did see Hitchens, I think. And so he was trying to arc it over him, and Ron came right underneath. Heads up play. You can say what you want about Ron Parker. He misses tackles. He's out of position from time to time, but he makes plays from time to time too. So Dan Sorensen coming back eventually. He'll hopefully practice soon. I think that bolsters this, but I think Lucas is showing his might, and I think Eric Murray's doing well. I don't know. I don't know how the rotation will go. We'll just have to play that by ear. Thoughts on the Cleveland game? Stop Nick Chubb. That's going to be the tough one. I'm a big Nick Chubb fan. I thought he played great in college. I think you see what he's going to be able to do for those Browns, and I think that's going to be a challenge for those inside linebackers as well. Say what you want to say about the transition from college to the pros. If you're a running back or a defender or whatever, if you play at Georgia, you're pretty much prepared for the league. And I think this is going to be a really, really interesting go at seeing hopefully Justin Houston back by then, but being able to play those. How valuable is Kareem Hunt to this offense? Well, from a personal note, I'm a guy that believes that the run changes the game because it puts a physical emphasis on everything. It puts that exclamation point. It tires guys out. Hey, I just noticed we broke 500 and we're 400 now. So thank you all for hanging out. I appreciate that. It's great. I appreciate the questions too. And make sure you keep them coming for the videos later this week too. But running the ball is key because it sets up the rest of the game, especially for the offense, but it also keeps the defense off of the field, lets them have a breather, and that's important. It's all good to have time of possession, but you don't want it too lopsided either. And it's important, and I think Kareem, what you've seen the last couple of weeks is they clearly had a plan that they wanted to emphasize the deep ball. They wanted to emphasize Tyreek and Travis and let the league get all that film out of the way and get them worried about where those two guys are. Sammy, I thought they made a concerted effort, by the way. Just a side note here. I thought they made a very concerted effort to get Sammy the ball in positions that he could play. I think they realized and went on at halftime and realized he hadn't touched the ball yet. And I think they realized that he's a guy that needs to be fed. And I think that will be the key to his season. If they can get dedicated touches for him, he's going to contribute. That first play, what was it, 51 yards? I mean, that shows you that he is keyed up and he can do things. I love how he runs with power. He's more powerful than Bo it was, in my opinion, once he has the ball in his hands. The way that he runs and attacks tacklers, I like that. And I think that's going to pay off for him. But what you see from Kareem is they kind of laid off of him first few weeks anyway, and just let him do his thing and get around to it. And Andy doesn't run the ball as much as I do anyway. But now you see Kareem's mad, like all these people. I'm sure. I don't know how much he reads, but I'm sure the talk of Alvin Kamara being the best back in the league and what Gurley's been doing, that's got to be out there. Somebody he knows is listening to it. And I feel like he's been running really angry the last 2 weeks. And I like that. That's the way a running back has to be, in my opinion. From old Jim Brown to Gale Sayers to Walter Payton, attack the guy who's trying to stop you. And I think that's the way running back has to be played even today, with as little or as much as you think the running game is being emphasized. The only thing I was disappointed in tonight is that they didn't give a touch to Sherman, but he was in there. He made some nice blocks. He's running as the second tight end from time to time. In fact, they pulled that same formation that I showed you in the game plan video. They came out in the same formation and just ran the down block just for the zone. And that's the thing that they bootlegged out that scored one of the touchdowns to Kareem Hunt. And he was the inside of the double tight end formation. And I think Sherman can function there. He can really do a little bit of everything. I think later in the year, you're going to see him motion more, and that's going to be the next wrinkle that they'll use for him. Thoughts on corners not sitting back. I like it, but I want him to press more. I want him to be bullies. That's what you got to be if you want to stop guys like Green. They played well across the board for just about everybody but Green. And he's AJ Green, so he's going to get catches, but you can physically disrupt him and set him off of his game like anybody else. The only guy that I don't think you can really stop or jam off the line effectively is Julio. He's going to get open no matter what. If you can get your hands on Odell, you can stop him too. So I think that's key. But I like that they were more aggressive. And then when they realized that they needed to back off, they did. And that's okay because that variation is tactical as well. From a strategic standpoint, being able to vary your tactics is important. And that allows you to switch things up, to catch people off guard, to make Dalton see something that isn't really there. And I think we saw that a couple times tonight too. It's time to release Barry and sign Earl Thomas. No, not at all. And I'll tell you this, there are a couple of beat writers in Kansas City right now that work for a certain paper that seem to have the opinion that we can't count on Eric Berry being Eric Berry when he returns, which is about the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. And if you're somebody who's new to the market and you're a beat writer, you got to do more research because there's no way they're releasing Eric Berry. They shouldn't release Eric Berry. And I'm not so sure they should go after Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas might be interested, I have to tell you, because playing with Berry and looking at this team, this offense that he would get to play with, he'd be kind of the crowning piece and would allow them to really make a step forward. But his contract needs are going to be pretty out there, and I just don't know if they're going to be able to do that. We'll see what they do with Ford. That franchise tag is going to play an important role in how much cash they have around to sign contracts. So we'll get there. Thoughts on Fuller? I thought Fuller bounced back. Like Scandrick, I think Fuller showed his veteran savvy, and the aggression helped him. I thought Steve Nelson was eerily quiet because I don't think they went after him very much because Steve is a feisty dude, and when he presses hard. And I think that's something that kind of spills over. We saw it all in camp. Steve Nelson was really pushing that DB group in camp, and I think that's something we're seeing on the field still. How do I feel about Perfect? Not my player. I don't care. You think Hunt should get to the edge more? I like him running inside. Running inside hurts. It hurts the defenders. It's one of those deals that you got to punch it down their throat half the time. But when he does hit the edge, he's able to still turn the corner, and that's the great thing. What I didn't see is I wanted to see them run more counter, run more where it's not just the flash and dazzle cross formation shifts and all that. Just run simple one-step counters to get linebackers flowing one direction and keying off the back to let them go the other direction. It's a concept that's really old, but it really works. I'd like to see them use that more, especially when they're pulling guards. And I didn't see them pull guards very much this game. I will check that in the All-22 when it comes out. Although, excuse me, I have to say that it's been coming out later because the Chiefs have been playing these late games. So it may not be till Wednesday that I even see it. Cheers. So I will definitely check that. But I thought the O-line played well. I like what Wiley brings. I like seeing guys like Irvin got beat up by Geno Atkins. Don't get me wrong. He didn't play a great game, but it's Geno Atkins. So I'm not too worried about it. And the fact that they stuck up for their quarterback and they were all over that kind of stuff, no nonsense. I really, really like that. And I think Wiley's going to fit in here. I know Jeff Allen's around now, but I still see Jeff Allen as backup. Experienced backup. Like, I mean, he's literally the guy who's like, hey, somebody got hurt. I don't care which position it is, any of the five, and Jeff Allen's going in, and I'm way comfortable with that. But I want to see what Wiley can do. I love his nasty, and I think this team needs nasty until LDT can get back. More questions. Is Houston overpaid? If Houston were healthy, I would say yes, but his output level for the amount that he rushes last year, he only rushed 73% of passing downs. They dropped him into coverage 27% of the time, if I have my numbers right. And it's not that far off this season. And the fact that he's putting up numbers comparable to Von Miller and to some of the leaders, I have no problem with where Justin Houston is now. I'd like him to take a pay cut because they could use the cap space. But I won't call him overpaid yet. How do you think Reed used Lucas and Murray? Reed didn't. That's all Bob. Reed's not going to make personnel decisions on the defense. And I saw them, they switched out after that touchdown where Lucas got beat and saw Murray play deep a little bit more. And that's what allowed Parker to come up because it was Murray that was behind him on that interception. And that's an important one too. But Lucas is fine. He's still playing into it. He had a couple of mistakes tonight. Not a big deal. I think having those two with Ron, waiting for Eric to get back, that's a great rotation because I think Murray and Lucas are still ascending. Ron's plateaued. Ron's not going to get better. Ron's still going to be a roller coaster. He's going to have good games and bad games. Eric Berry's still going to be an all-pro if he can come back healthy and play consistently. That's why I think it's so funny that the beat reporters for one organization seem to think that he may not be better than the current safeties when he does return. And if you're talking about availability, if he comes back and he only plays 20 snaps, okay, on that level, I can get with that. But he's Eric Berry. He's an all-pro. He didn't forget how to play this game in the last 60 days, so relax. Red Rocker has a very good point. I did know that this was Andy Reid's 200th career win. Big time. And I think that also tells you why they were still punching it down their throats late in the fourth quarter. Andy wanted to make a point, and I think he did. I don't have any specific info on when Barry's back. It may not be till late in the season. It could be very late in the season, just looking for the playoffs. If they can keep winning, I think that's all right. Who else? Thanks, Jeff Jenkins. I appreciate that, and I'm not going to comment any farther. Patrick Peterson, I think that ship has sailed. It would have been done by now. I think we're looking at 9 days to the trade deadline. I don't think the Patrick Peterson thing's going to happen. If it does, who do you sit down? Skandrick's playing all right. The corners are all playing at a level good enough to get them to the Super Bowl. If this offense keeps doing what it's doing and they can keep teams under 20 points, this team can go to the Super Bowl and win it. So you tell me, is it worth a first-round pick? It was a couple weeks ago when they looked terrible, but hey, I don't know that's for sure at this point. San Diego is more balanced. Yes. Having Melvin Gordon will do that. And they do have a tendency to use their backup back a little bit more. Although Spencer Ware played a heck of a game tonight too. And I don't want to forget about him, especially we're 26 minutes in and I haven't even said anything about him yet. Spencer Ware played hard and again, runs a lot like Kareem did tonight and ran with attitude and ran angry. And that's when Spencer's at his best as well. Who else? I want to get to all your questions. I am trying undefeated at home. Probably. It should be. I mean, if they have a huge letdown mentally sometime where they just look over somebody next to the next game or something like that, I guess they could lose. I just don't see it happening. Talk about O'Daniel. When this posts in a little while, it should be up in the next 20 minutes whenever after we're done. Go back to and watch it on the replay on the beginning. It'll post like a regular video. We talked all about O'Daniel off the top of the show. Britt Reed, future DC. No, not that I know of. I have no input of that he's had any influence on any position outside of the D line. I think if Bob Sutton got canned today, you're either looking at Smith or possibly Al Harris being the DC. I think it would probably be Smith. I don't think Britt Reed's ready. I don't think he's got that far out. So, okay, Ryan, who do you want to go after? I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody worth going after for a first or a second round. And that's if you're not giving up that kind of thing, then the player's not worth it. That's really going to help you. So I don't know. Do you think we pick up anybody before it? You know, if the Cardinals are serious about their brush fire their fire sale or whatever you want to call it, I could see Reddick, especially with the Smith injury. Want to see O'Daniel play, but if they want more linebacker depth that can play coverage, it's almost like retooling with him. It's very much like Irving, not like Ragland, because Hassan Reddick has been playing, but he's been bounced around from position to position, and he hasn't been the off-ball linebacker that we thought he was going to be. He's got to get into another defense. He's got to learn it from top to bottom again. So it's almost like starting over and rebooting Hassan Reddick as far as I'm concerned. That's not worth more than a fourth-round pick to me. So whether they agree or not, I don't know. Yeah, I still think Bob has issues. This was a good game plan. See if he can do it consistently, and maybe I'll feel better then. Any team can hold us under 30 points. We're going to find out in Mexico City, I'll tell you that. The Chiefs offense is, when its back is against the wall or it's feeling like it's not performing, that's when they're best. You know, they put up 40 last week and still didn't get the job done. So I feel like this was partly because they were at home and partly because they were angry. And I feel like with the national spotlight that's going to come with being up against the Rams, and even if the Rams lose between now and then, it's still going to be the top two teams in the NFL playing in another country. And that kind of pressure is going to be huge. I think they will rise to that occasion. The altitude's tough in Mexico City, though. It's up there, and it does have an effect on people. So they need to be prepared for it. I'm hoping that they come out here closer to me and practice in the springs. If they do, I'll definitely go down there and check them out and try to give you guys a report from there. I know where they practice when they come to town. So other questions. The Arrowhead advantage is real. You play at home in the AFC Championship, you win. That's the bottom line. That's my thought this season. Rank the best players on offense. Yeah, I mean, jumble them. The four that you mentioned, Mahomes, Hill, Hunt, and Kelsey, put them all in a bag. They're all pretty much the best at their positions, period. So I'm not going to take one over the other than the quarterback's the franchise kind of guy. You can't do anything without a good quarterback. So can anyone beat us? Yes, the Patriots proved anyone can beat them any given Sunday. Kareem Hunt gets injured. Pat Mahomes gets injured. Anything like that, and yeah, this is a team that will lose. I guarantee you. So yeah, don't sit back and feel comfortable. What else? What else? Did Speaks redeem himself? I wasn't that angry at him. He made a mistake. He's a rookie. I think he played better. I think he bounced back. So I was happy to see that. No, DJ is not coming back, and if he did, he'd be worth it as a coach, and that's about it. Bob owns so-so QBs. Yes, he also owns, for the most part, some elite ones. This is the first time Tom Brady's really been able to come back on him, so I'm not too worried about that. And I'm not ready to call Goff elite, so I don't think we have to be too up in arms about that. Terry Jones, I appreciate you. Thank you. It's folks like you guys watching me and paying attention that allowed me to come over to YouTube, because the amount of time that it takes to do all this, including the podcast and having a day job, it needs to be worth it, and you guys make it worth it, and I really appreciate that. It's fun, and it gives me an outlet for all of the time that I'd be spending watching film anyway. So I appreciate you all being here. Should we be concerned with fumbled snaps? Nah. I mean, if there's a time where he doesn't complete a pass off of it, maybe I'll worry, but I don't think he's too bad. So it's something that's going to come. I think it's a concentration factor. I think that will settle down. I mean, remember, Pat Mahomes is still a rookie too, for all intents and purposes. Let's see here. Did Bob Sutton change the game plan? Yeah, I think he did. I think he was more aggressive. I think that's what he has to be. I've been saying it for weeks. So thanks for listening, Bob. Appreciate it. Hey, thanks, FN 2187. I can't say that correctly too fast, so I'll just go with that. What about Rex Ryan? Yeah, I'm all about Rex Ryan. I loved his dad. I like him as a DC. Rex is a terrible head coach, don't get me wrong, but he's a great DC. So if Bob's going to go, I that's the guy I'd go after. I mean, we'll see who else is available, but there's always options. But yeah, I would definitely talk to Rex. Chris Conley, a third for PP. I'm not sure what that means, but I like what Chris Conley's doing. He's there when he's needed. He's not getting a lot of looks, but he's doing well with what he gets. How much does Peters be helping us Super Bowl chances? I don't know. You seen him play the last couple weeks. Peters is good. He was very good, but teams were figuring out how to attack him, and that's deep. You know, this team is already beatable deep. I think he'd give them more interceptions. There would be more turnovers with him there, but I don't know this team would have any more wins. Well, I guess that's only one loss, but still, I don't think he would have made that big of a difference, especially because he was a cancer in the locker room. And I've had too many people tell me what went down and where, and it's a good thing he's not in Kansas City. I think we get Justin versus the Broncos. I don't think so. I think it's another week or two away, but I could be wrong. I'll let you know as soon as I see something that makes me think different. Why no Ben Neiman? He's not a coverage guy. Ben's a young guy. I think he's good. I think he's still mostly a college linebacker that can play downhill. I don't think he's ready to play the coverage yet. So keep an eye out for that. When he comes along next season, we might be talking completely differently about Ben Neiman. Was it supposed to be a run play? You never know. Those RPOs, they're designed to be both. And it's completely up to Pat at the time that he makes that decision. So, yes and no. Why no Ben Neiman? Yeah, I said that. Leslie Frazier. I like Leslie. He has a dedicated list, a very storied list of things that he's done, starting back with the '85 Bears. But as a head coach, as a coordinator, as a position coach, I think he and Al Harris would work together really well. Leslie would be on my short list as well. I mean, basically, if you're a guy that is a coach in this league that played for the '85 Bears, you're on my list. Best team in history, as far as I'm concerned. Pick up if we trade someone. I already answered that one. Go back and check it out when it posts in a little while. Why did the run game improve? They didn't hesitate. I don't know if that's because Bob let them go or they got more aggressive, but there wasn't that hesitation, and that was what was burning them, particularly at the linebacker level. And I thought the D line had this was an O line that couldn't deal with them quite as well, so that helped as well. Yeah, I know Andy said the day that he was that they came out and said to the press that they weren't going to sign Derek Johnson, that they'd be great to have him back as a position coach at some point. So yeah, I think that could be in the cards eventually. Maybe not now. It depends on whether Derek's actually ready to say that he's done or not. Dan Sorensen covered that a little bit earlier too. Go check the replay. You like how Harris has been doing when he comes in for Kelsey? Well, honestly, Harris hasn't been Harris very much. He hasn't been dropping the ball, so I'm all good with it. As long as he does that, then he's fine in my book. A tight end that doesn't catch does not do his job as far as I'm concerned, unless you're Jason Dunn. Jason Dunn doesn't have to catch ever. If we had another Jason Dunn, this team would be running down everybody's throats. Who do you think we hurdle for the Rams? I'm not sure what you mean, Alejandro, but ask me again, and I'll try to figure that out. Was it Devy or Wiley that defended Mahomes on the Hunt cheap shots? I think that was Devy. But Devy, Irving, Wiley, they were all in there at some point. Do you have an estimate on when Barry returns? Jared, you're fine. And it's been asked because it's important. I don't have any idea. I'm not 100% that I buy in that it's just a pain management thing. I've said that before, but it's basically whenever they tell us, they'll tell us because they're being super secretive about Eric in general. Do I think Holly would be a good coach? I do. I think Holly's got a music career going, and I'm not sure he wants to coach. I think it might be a little too close to the game for him. I think he misses the game. I think the last couple of seasons, he loved the game more than he was able to play the game. And so that might be tough for Tomba. Thoughts on Wiley defending Mahomes? Yeah, me too. That's what your linemen are supposed to do. So Wiley's fitting in. DOD, yep, again, talked about Dorian at the beginning of the show. I know we're almost 40 minutes in. Thank you all for hanging out. We're still over 400 people, so hey. Lucas, start over Murray. It's tough. Lucas has come on. I think Murray knows the defense a little bit better, but Lucas is a better individual player in terms of attacking and playing a safety. So it's a toss-up. I'm comfortable with either at this point, and especially knowing that the other one can come in if something goes wrong. Don Brown. Okay. Jordan again. DOD talked about him in the beginning. Okay. We're getting to the point where I think we're out of questions, folks. Make sure you check the replay because I addressed all these questions before. You probably just got in late or whatever and asked them. Honey Badger, Patrick Peterson, Landon Collins ain't going nowhere, folks. Don't let Chris pump you up. They're not giving up Landon Collins ever. I guarantee it. Hey, Yusura, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm doing my best here, and I will keep doing my best. I got a lot of things down the pike. Remember, Rogue Analytics, I do all kinds of draft stuff too, so I'll be here all off season. You're going to have weekly content from me all year round. I'm even going to start a tech channel and a beer channel, so there'll be other things to look at too. I'm going to sign off at that point. Armani Watts, he will be back. He had to be out at least 8 weeks, so we'll see when he returns. Same with LDT. They should be on the same week. Thanks, Red Rocker. Thanks, especially Andy Humberg, old friend of mine, coming and hanging out. And all of you, appreciate all your time. Still over 400 at 40 minutes in. This is great. I'll be back. I'll have the film room Wednesday, and I'll have the game plan for next week up Friday. Check those out. Tell your friends. Appreciate all you guys do and hanging out. And I will be back with you in a couple of days. Have a good one. Cheers.